Hello and welcome to another live edition of VTV News by VTV International. I am Minh Hằng and let's now get you started with some headlines for today. Chinese vessels surround threaten Vietnamese fishing ships. European security experts support Vietnam in taking EC issues to international court. And 19th to 20th century Vietnamese newspapers on display. Now, let's get started with the first news. On Saturday morning, some large iron-hulled Chinese fishing vessels under the protections of Chinese Coast Guard ships continued to encircle and threaten Vietnamese fishing ships in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. VTV reporters are at the scene to bring you more updates.
19 Vietnamese fishing ships are currently positioned 100 nautical miles offshore and 42 nautical miles southwest of the illegal Chinese oil-rich Giàn CO 981. This area has been familiar fishing grounds to fishermen from central Vietnam for generations. However, over 40 iron-hulled Chinese vessels are currently illegally occupying Vietnam's water, positioning themselves a mere 2 nautical miles from the Vietnamese vessels. According to the Vietnam Fishing Control Department, 40 Chinese fishing vessels under the protection of Chinese Coast Guard ships lined up and head straight for the Vietnamese ships. This footage of the incident was documented by VTV reporters at 10 a.m. on Saturday. After only 10 minutes, iron-hull fishing vessels encircled and repeatedly approached 19 Vietnamese fishing vessels. However, Vietnamese ships were determined in their duties and reiterated their demand that China removed its oil rig from Vietnam's continental shelf and exclusive economic zone.
Cooperations and Sustainable Development in the EC was the theme of a seminar held on Friday, June 6 at the Vietnam National Universities of Hanoi. Academic experts from Vietnam National University gave attendees an informative lectures on the topics of maritime securities, mineral potentials in the ECs, as well as legal documents on Vietnam's sovereignty over the seas and islands in this area. The oceans, environmental issues, and climate change were also on the agenda. Also, on this occasion, Vietnam National University lecturers showcased some items, documents, and new research on Vietnam's sea and island sovereignty, which had been conducted by researchers from Vietnam National University and the Universities of Social Sciences and Humanities. Taking the EC case to International Court of Justice and the UN General Assembly might be the best way for Vietnam to resolve the dispute with China. This is according to some European lawyers, international law experts, and scholars. Let's consider their comments in the following report.
On the international front, when a big country provokes a small country, the latter should invoke justice, the rule of law, and peaceful measures to settle the problem. The big country is always the one who starts the conflict.
In the event that the parties cannot find a solution based on bilateral or multilateral negotiations, then the parties could submit their case to the International Court of Justice or to the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, which was established in Hamburg in Germany under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or otherwise it might also be possible to find a solution through arbitration.
Vietnam can claim that China's actions could be a threat not only to its sovereignty, but also to global peace and security. I think Vietnam should consider all the parties' opinions and actions, bring the issue to the Security Council of the UN, as well as ask for UN actions to settle the EC issue in order to avoid other conflicts in the future.
Vietnam
is not the only country facing this kind of conflict. The Philippines, for example, also have a similar dispute with China. The Philippines choose to submit the issue to the International Court of Justice. However, China refused to join, although China signed the 1982 Convention on the Law of the Sea.
Now, a meeting was held on Saturday morning in the northern port cities of Hải Phòng to mark the 2014 Vietnam Sea and Islands Week as well as World Oceans Day. Now, speaking at the event, Deputy Prime Minister Hoàng Trung Hải stressed the need to expand Vietnam Sea's-based economic sectors through its overall socio-economic development strategy. The Ministries of Natural Resources and Environment called on organizations and individuals to continue supporting local fishermen to go out to sea and protect the country's sovereignty. Right after the ceremony yesterday morning, a campaign was launched by youth volunteers aimed at cleaning up beaches. This campaign was supplemented by a cycle along the beachfronts to communicate environmental protection issues related to the sea. Vietnam Sea trademark in international integrations was selected as the theme for this year's Sea Trademark Forum. The event, which was co-organized by the Ministries of Natural Resources and Environment and the Hải Phòng People's Committees, was held on June the 6th as a prelude to the Vietnam Sea and Islands Week 2014.
As this year's host, Hải Phòng is a city with great maritime potential. Its annual growth of 20% and its 39 shipyard enterprises make it a keynote for many important sea routes in northern Vietnam and the region. In addition, the upcoming development of the deep-water Hải Phòng International Seaport in Lạch Huyện will be a massive improvement to Vietnam's overall maritime trademark.
With 30 years of development from 1986 until now, Hải Phòng ports have a huge impact locally and nationally, especially to the maritime economy. When the economy developed, the seaports couldn't keep up, hence the new Lạch Huyện port.
In Vietnam's sea economic strategy, tourism has a key role, especially in the development of its sea and islands. Tourism is a multifaceted industry, a local sector for export. Tourism boosts development in coastal areas. At the conference, representatives stressed that sea products are very important in developing Vietnam's sea trademark. Notably, several provinces have paid attention to this.
Sea products, such as fish sauce, need to be registered, and it requires support and promotion in order to export it.
However, for Vietnam's sea trademark to capitalize on the potential of its 1.2 million square meters of sea surface and 3,000 islands, comprehensive and long-term solutions are needed.
Moving on to some business news now, the link between small and medium-sized enterprises and the banking system is very important. It can offer businesses a capital channel to enhance manufacturing as well as sustain operations in the face of the economic downturn. However, not every firm can access bank loans easily. Thus, the programs of connecting banks and enterprises, which has been implemented in Thừa Thiên Huế province, is highly valued as an effective measure to deal with the situation.
To promote the program in the area, last month, a conference entitled Dealing with Enterprise Difficulties in Accessing Credit Loans was held in the central province of Thừa Thiên Huế. The conference attracted attendance from many local firms. Addressing the event, representatives from businesses actively shared their views and discussed finding feasible solutions to giving lines of credit to the companies that need them. The aim of the conference was to link government agencies with enterprises and commercial banks.
In supporting the program, the State Bank has directed commercial banks in the region to join hands with local firms to restructure the debt system. At the same time, many preferential loans and credit programs have been adjusted to meet the demand of expanding the manufacturing capacity of enterprises.
Following the conference, the program to link the regional banking system with firms has been deployed. Accordingly, credit organizations are now more active in finding customers and supporting enterprises. More loan package with preferential interest rates are also being offered to local firms. The program has contributed to raising commercial bank responsibility in the community, as well as in sharing the burden of difficulties with enterprises.
The province has created the conditions necessary to launch this program in the region, and last month's conference was a part of that. In the coming time, we'll direct some specific commercial banks to work with enterprises and help them cope with difficulties. Some measures, including releasing new credit loans and adjusting interest rates, will soon be implemented.
Currently, the connection between the government, enterprises and commercial banks can be seen as a key requirement to helping firms operate effectively. When firms and banking systems can share the same view, it will establish fair conditions for further cooperation in the future. The program of connecting banks and enterprises is a measure that could solve many problems currently faced by businesses.
Healthcare services throughout 62 districts in 7 northern mountainous provinces in Vietnam has seen a great boost in quality thanks to a project implemented by the Ministries of Health. The project provided support in human resources and equipment, as well as raising public awareness about general health issues. More in the following.
Despite its big size, the capability of this district hospital is severely limited due to a lack of modern medical equipment and well-trained doctors. As such, the hospital can only transfer patients to higher-level hospitals. Since 2009, thanks to the project implemented by the Ministry of Health, the hospital has been equipped with new and innovative medical equipment and 3 professional doctors. Thanks to these improvements, 50% of patients who present themselves at this hospital are now treated here.
Ethnic people or low-income people only go to hospital when they're suffering from a serious medical problem because it's very hard for them to afford medical care. However, thanks to this project, they can now access healthcare services.
The project also offers ethnic people free meals and travel expenses so that they can come to hospital to access free healthcare services instead of staying home and suffer their illness.
With the project's support and communications campaign, as well as improvements in healthcare service quality, people are now satisfied with hospitals and use medical services more than ever before.
To date, the project has helped 7 mountainous provinces train nearly 1,800 doctors, as well as providing innovative medical equipment. This has helped improve and develop the whole medical system and raise people's awareness of healthcare services. But the question is, how to maintain the healthcare quality and doctor training without depending on this project into the future. We want to carry the effectiveness of this project beyond the limits of the project itself. So the district authorities should cooperate with hospitals to make long-term and short-term plans to develop sustainable solutions. This $66 million project was funded by international and domestic counterparts. Hopefully, it will spark a series of similar projects that can offer increased medical technology and an equal standard of healthcare services for ethnic people in Vietnamese mountainous area.
Still to come on VTV News, ASEAN senior official meetings began in Myanmar to prepare for the upcoming series of ASEAN engagements. And later on, let's explore the 19th, 20th century Vietnamese newspapers, which are currently on display here in Hanoi.
Exotic Vietnam is an intriguing blend of many charms. This land is where all manner of stunning landscapes await like a visual feast, rivaled only by the beauty of its people and their abundantly rich tradition and culture. Here is where you can relive the past in richest color or live it up in the bright lights of the big city. With so much more to offer, Vietnam is simply unforgettable.
Welcome back to VTV News live from Hanoi. Now, in the meetings of the National Assembly on Saturday, deputies revealed that Vietnam's poverty rate has been reduced by as much as 2.5% annually since 2005, thanks to the government's poverty reductions policies. However, many deputies agree that permanent support policies should only serve those who could not escape poverty. They added that people should be encouraged to escape poverty through the provisions of long-view policies such as education, training, and job opportunities. Many current policies provide assistance to the poor but lack organizations, background investigations, as well as the monitoring of their investment. National Assembly deputies agreed to focus on the two key programs of poverty reductions and building new rural communities. In other news, the ASEAN senior official meetings began on Saturday in Yangon, Myanmar. This meeting was held in preparations for the upcoming series of ASEAN engagements, which will include ASEAN foreign minister meetings plus other meetings as part of the East Asia Summit, or EAS, and the ASEAN Regional Forum, or ARF. These discussions are scheduled for August in Naypyidaw, Myanmar. During Saturday's meeting, ASEAN senior officials talked about foreign affairs practices, including implementations of the declarations of Code of Conduct of parties in the EC or DOC, as well as the Code of Conduct in the EC or COC. On June the 6th in Hanoi, the Ministries of Foreign Affairs together with the UNDP Vietnam organized an international conference against tortures with the participations of domestic and international experts. More to follow.
The UN Convention Against Torture is a concise and clear convention currently signed by 81 nations and approved by 155 countries. Vietnam joined the convention on November the 7th, 2013, and is currently carrying out steps to meet the convention's approval requirements.
Has been held today is a good step forward in clarifying, in understanding better the state obligations under this convention, to understand better what would have to be done as part of the ratification and the implementation process.
At the conference, experts exchange views and clarify practical ways in which the convention's contents will be implemented in Vietnam. These discussions will help Vietnam actualize its 2013 Constitution on Human Rights and Human Rights Protection.
When the National Assembly dropped laws, we are going to amend the criminal laws as well as making a new law on questioning detainees to be completed around 2015 to 2016. There are chances for us to learn from international experience.
Currently, the Ministry of Security is chairing and coordinating with other ministries in this undertaking.
Messaging so that we are tough on torture, we want to improve our prison conditions, and every prison, every psychiatric hospital, every police station has to be opened to an independent inspection. That would be the best message to send, that we want to prevent torture forever.
Vietnam's participation in the UN Convention Against Torture shows that the country is proactive in this regard and stands up to its international responsibilities.
Moving on to the culture scene, an exhibition showcasing Vietnamese newspapers dating back as far as 1865 comments on Saturday, June the 7th in Hanoi. The displayed items represent the histories and development of Vietnamese journalism. This exhibition was made possible through the contributions of 3 Vietnamese collectors. Thuận Uyên has the story.
Tiếng dân, or people's voice, Tuổi thơ, childhood, and Tân xã hội, or New Society, were amongst the most prominent newspapers since the birth of Vietnamese journalism. Many of them have been put on display here at this exhibition. To the public, especially the young generation, this is a great opportunity for them to learn about the history of Vietnam's newspapers.
I have only heard the names of some of these newspapers, such as Phong Hóa or New Wen or Tiểu thuyết thứ bảy or Saturday Novel, so this is the first time I've ever seen them in real life. I think this is great.
The exhibition includes 43 different newspapers, and through them, the audience can see the changes both in terms of writing style and newspaper design. Notably, the exhibition has also attracted foreign scholars.
Many foreign scholars have been interested in and have discussed the development of Vietnamese newspapers in their research. However, they don't have access to newspapers that were published in the distant past. So I'm here to see the exhibition and also to meet with other scholars in Vietnam.
Ha Giang and his fellow collectors say that preserving old newspapers has proved to be quite difficult. Given the limited resources and the humid climate, it was very difficult to keep the newspapers in good condition. However, that was only one of the many difficulties.
The three biggest challenges are income, how to maintain the passion, and luck. There were times when I lost my interest. Other times, my income was not stable enough to maintain this hobby. Moreover, I think you need a lot of luck. Many newspapers existed a long time ago, so it was definitely not easy to find them.
In order to realize this exhibition, the young collectors spent over 7 years gathering old newspapers. It was not easy, particularly when many of them stopped being published in the 1940s or 50s. Although they don't have yet a concrete plan for this exhibition, the collectors said that they would continue their hobby of collecting old books and newspapers.
And now up next, let's take a look at some highlights event in the last 7 days.
This week, China continued to illegally maintain its oil rig within Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. On Thursday, China sent 2 more military ships to defend the oil rig, and Chinese vessels continued their provocative acts by surrounding Vietnam's fishery surveillance ships and attacking them with water cannons. However, Vietnamese law enforcement ships still persistently operated at about 10 nautical miles from the illegal oil rig and urged China to withdraw its oil rig and vessels from Vietnamese waters. China's illegal acts continued to be denounced by the international community. At the international conference themed The Philippines, Vietnam and Territorial Disputes in the East Sea, held in Washington, D.C. this Tuesday, Vietnamese representatives declared that China's conduct was escalating tensions in the region. The nation leader participated in a G7 summit on Thursday in Brussels, Belgium, also voiced their concern over tensions in the East Sea and their opposition to any unilateral attempt by any party to assert its territorial or maritime claims through the use of intimidation, coercion, or force. Also on Tuesday, the Vietnamese Ministry of Foreign Affairs held an international press conference to announce that they have previously sent a diplomatic note to the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs requesting the removal of China's illegal oil rig so that the two countries could begin the negotiation process.
A delegation of U.S. businesses led by the Secretaries of Commerce Penny Pritzker visited Vietnam this week. Pritzker and representatives of the U.S. ASEAN Business Council was received by State President Trung Sang on Monday in Hanoi. She affirmed that the U.S. respects and wants to further boost cooperation with Vietnam and expressed the hope that the relationship would be strengthened, especially after the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement is signed. Pritzker was also welcomed by Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng, where she thanked the Vietnamese government for their continuous efforts to improve investment environment, implement commitments when entering the WTO, and facilitate foreign investors. Later on Monday, Pritzker held a press conference to emphasize the confidence of the U.S. business community in the economic development potential in Southeast Asia and Vietnam.
This week, a Vietnamese delegation led by Vice President Nguyễn Thị Doan took part in the 24th Global Summit of Women, which opened on Paris on Thursday. At the summit, Vietnam was introduced as an example for significant progress in improving gender equality, shown in the presence of female leaders in the government and businesses. As the special guest and keynote speaker at the event, Vietnamese Vice President Nguyễn Thị Doan stressed that society cannot flourish without the contribution of women, and gender equality cannot be achieved without everyone's participation. During her trip, Giàn also had meetings with the President of the French Senate, the French Foreign Minister, and the Secretary General of the International Francophone Organization.
The National Assembly this week discussed the draft law on the organizations of the National Assembly and confident votes assessing the performance of officials elected or approved by the National Assembly and People's Councils. Most of the deputies agreed on the need to change the law to specify the new regulations outlined in the Constitution. They said the revisions would improve the operations of the National Assembly to make it more practical. Besides increasing the number of full-time National Assembly deputies, deputies also proposed assigning specific tasks to committees in order to increase the Assembly's efficiency and avoid overlapping responsibilities.
The government of Vietnam always does its utmost to create favorable conditions and ensure safety for investors to do long-term business in the country. Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng affirmed this while addressing the Midterm Vietnam Business Forum in Hanoi on June the 5th. Mr. Dũng recalled the recent disturbance by a number of extremists in the wake of China's illegal placement of its Hải Giang Sư Yếu 981 oil rig in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone, affecting FDI operations. He said the Vietnamese government has taken the matter very seriously and have implemented tough measures against the unrest to help affected businesses recover from the consequences and resume normal operation, as well as ensuring safety and security for foreigners in Vietnam. The forum also discussed policy dialogue in tax, labor, and relevant amended laws between the government and the local and foreign business community.
And now it is time we take a look at the updated weather forecast. And that is all we have for you for this edition of VTV News. Thank you very much for tuning in. You can always log on to our address at vtv4.vn if you would like to rewatch this program. For now, goodbye from Hanoi.